Hello everyone, my name is Eashan Gani, and in this presentation, I'll be talking about the discrete wavelet transform and the fast Fourier transform and EEG signal processing. In short terms, I'll be examining two techniques in EEG signal processing that can aid in mitigating mental illnesses of individuals. So why I chose this topic? First, I'll talk about how I was introduced to this topic. So I was actually watching a movie, and in this movie, there was a person wearing this thing on his head, and next to him there was a computer where there were brain signals being depicted. So I was really intrigued with this, and I wanted to see if this is actually true in real life. So as I read through research papers, I found out that there's this thing, something called the EEG, also known as the electroencephalogram. So what the electroencephalogram is that it's a tool that measures the electrical activity of the brain. So it depicts brain signals on a computer-based system known as the brain-computer interface, and it has small metal discs on the scalp known as electrodes. And these electrodes help to identify any epileptic seizures or any disorders that an individual is facing. So, following the electroencephalogram, EEG signal processing is a complex pathway that helps to classify EEG acquired signals based on the electrical activity of the brain. So firstly, what happens is that the EEG collects signals from the brain, and initially, these signals have many large spikes. So it's going to be very hard for scientists to interpret these signals and identify any abnormalities. So this is the purpose of EEG signal processing. So what EEG signal processing does is that it decomposes signals, and by decomposing signals, this helps scientists to clearly interpret any large spikes in EEG signals, and this can easily help to identify any abnormalities or epileptic disorders that exist in individuals. Now, before we talk about the discrete Fourier transform, the fast Fourier transform, it's essential to talk about the traditional EEG signal processing techniques. In the history of EEG signal processing techniques, the Haar wavelet was first depicted under a Hungarian mathematician named Alfred Haar. And however, the Haar wavelet only produced square-shaped functions, and this wavelet lacked the capability to analyze complex signals. So it only analyzed stationary signals that do not have large spikes. So it's very hard for scientists to interpret any abnormalities in signals. And in order to tackle this issue, the Morley wavelet was proposed by Dennis Gaber in 1946, and this played a better role than the Haar wavelet in analyzing EEG signals. The Morley wavelet helped to analyze non-stationary signals. By non-stationary signals, what I mean is that these are signals that usually have large spikes, and these signals also help to interpret the amplitude of various signals. And as I mentioned before, scientists were able to analyze non-stationary signals, and this can clearly help to analyze any epileptical disorders. Lastly, an improvement to the Morlet wavelet was the continuous wavelet transform, and this was proposed by Jean Morlet in 1982, and this helped to display the frequency aspect of signals. So the continuous wavelet transform also helped to depict non-stationary signals, and this also provided an efficient way to recognize abnormalities in brain waves, but this took very less time compared to the Morlet wavelet in analyzing signals. Now, finally, the Fourier and wavelet transform. So the Fourier and wavelet transform are very crucial to understanding the role that these methods play in EEG signal processing. So firstly, the Fourier transform translates signals between the time domain and the frequency domain. So the Fourier transform helps to depict the amplitude of signals, and it also helps to create two-dimensional 2D representation of signals. And the Fourier transform actually helped to it was one of the first techniques that was used for depicting abnormalities in EEG signals. Now, the signals that are depicted by the Fourier transform, they're actually decomposed into something called oscillations. And oscillations are basically rhythmic patterns that make it easier for the Fourier transform to analyze EEG signals. So what happens is that the EEG converts these signals into various patterns. So this can help researchers to identify any like similarities in signals, and if there's like a different pattern that is observed in the signals, that can indicate a very high or low abnormality in the EEG in the brain signals collected by the EEG. Now, the wavelet transform, different from the Fourier transform, the wavelet transform localizes both the time domain and frequency domain of the signal. So the Fourier transform only depicts two-dimensional representations of signals, but the wavelet transform can depict both 2D and 3D representation of signals. And by this, scientists can easily identify signals that are spread across various time intervals, and they can also observe the time that it could take for EEGs to acquire brain signals. Now, however, there are many problems in EEG signal processing. Firstly, it encounters a very low signal to noise ratio. What I mean is that when the EEG collects raw data, there's a high noise that interferes with the EEG recordings, and this noise can originate from the surroundings of the EEG, and furthermore, this could also lead to a lack of this could also prevent this could also lead to low resolution images of the brain signals collected on the brain computer interface, as noise interferences can lead to poor directionality of these signals. And also the noise interferences could lead to wrong interpretations of these signals. And this could lead to many confusions in analyzing abnormalities in the EEG signals. Now, coming straight to the point, the discrete wavelet transform is an EEG signal processing technique that is used for analyzing discretely sampled EEG signals, making it easier to extract features from these signals. It also compresses data in order to make it easier to identify the abnormalities in the EEG signals. Finally, it is also useful to providing high resolution images of these signals, and this can help for EEG signal feature extraction, which is digging deeper into the EEG signals to identify abnormalities as mentioned before. And this could also prevent the loss of time during EEG signal processing, unlike the Fourier transform. Now, the fast forward transform is also an EEG signal processing technique, and this technique usually converts signals from the time domain to the frequency domain. And by doing this, is able to analyze the frequency aspects of signals, like the amplitude of signals, and this reduces the number of computations to process EEG signals, preventing the loss of time during EEG signal processing. One of the main differences between the fast forward transform, the discrete wavelet transform, is that the fast forward transform can only extract information from the frequency domain of signals. So it can only portray the amplitude of signals, but however, it cannot portray it cannot portray signals that are spread across various time intervals. So scientists might, even though the fast forward transform can reduce the amount of time to collect brain signals, scientists will understand how much time, like specific time, it would take to collect these signals, and this can lead to confusions in EEG data. And the discrete wavelet transform converts signals from the time domain into the frequency domain, and vice versa. And by doing this, as mentioned before, it could create a 3D representation of a signal, and it could portray data across various time intervals, and it can also portray the amplitude of a signal, and which is why scientists highly emphasize the technique of the DWT. Now, going further into the differences between the EEG signal processing techniques, the fast forward transform is very sensitive to noise. So environmental interferences during EEG signal processing can cause EEG signals to change in frequencies very often. And also the frequency levels are very spread out and they aren't very congested. So this is a benefit of the fast forward transform. But however, this could also lead to more time for scientists to analyze these signals. Now, unlike the fast forward transform, the discrete wavelet transform, it can analyze signals across various frequencies. But however, it also has environmental interference, and this could contribute to poor resolution images, as you can see to the right. Now, even though there are many differences and limitations between both the techniques, the discrete Wavelet transform plays an efficient role during EEG signal processing, as a discrete Wavelet transform analyzes signals across multiple frequencies, and this can help to better indicate minor changes in EEG signals. And by using the discrete Wavelet transform, this could like provide more innovative approaches towards obtaining information regarding the electrical activity of the brain. And scientists can easily depict the electrical activity of the brain in various cognitive and emotional states. Thank you for your time, and I'm open to answer any questions.
Great job. All right, we're gonna do one question here. What was the hardest part of your research process?
So the hardest part of this research process was understanding the differences between the DWT and the discrete Wavelet transform, the fast forward transform, because the discrete Wavelet, because both the techniques have numerous limitations, and they also have many benefits. So it's very hard for me to understand what separates these two techniques as a whole. And by researching and by reading through numerous research articles, what I found was that the discrete Wavelet transform plays a more efficient role compared to the fast Fourier transform, because as mentioned in this presentation, the discrete Wavelet transform can portray signals in both the time domain and frequency domain of the signals. So it can portray data across various time intervals, and it could also portray the amplitude of various signals. So as I was reading through these articles, I found out that the DWT plays an efficient role in mitigating mental illnesses in individuals as a whole.
Great answer.